All right, all the math you guys have learned at this time of your lives was invented a long time ago. Pythagoras was like way BC. All the math that you've been doing up until now, somebody long time ago figured it out. What we're going to talk about now, probability, was only developed a few hundred years ago. And it was put together by a bunch of lowlifes, gamblers. And they went and got the really, really smart math people of the day, and they said, hey, figure out how I can rip people off. Okay. Las Vegas, Reno, Tahoe exist because of this math that was learned not that long ago. It's about probability. And I don't know, you got some homework problems tonight? I better see this a lot. Is there a theme up here at all? That's what probability is. Something in the short run can be extremely unpredictable. But in the long run, it gets extremely predictable. For example, out of your 10 flips, how many heads did you get? 8. Last period I had someone had 9 heads out of the 10. Now, we all know it's supposed to be around 50%. 5 out of 10 would have been what we expect. But in the short run, it can just be crazy. But in the long run, it gets very, very predictable. All right, how many people we got in here today? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So we've got 300 flips out there. Well, let's see what we get when we put them all together. In other words, many, 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 many flips. Create a little distribution chart. Really all I care about here is the number of heads. So tell me how many heads you have out of your 10 flips. Let's see if it calms down from 8. What do you got?
7.
7. What?
3.
3.
6.
6.
6. 8. 5. 7. 5. 7. 6. 6. 4. 3.
4.
8. 4. 7. 5. 6. 5.
4.
3.
4. 6.
6.
4.
4.
5.
7.
6.
Is that it? We got 30 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Somebody add those up for me. A couple people, maybe we get some confirmation one way or another. Somebody do it in your head. Somebody do it on a calculator.
$161.
161, anybody get confirmation to that? Somebody else did 161? Somebody else did? Okay, so what is that? What's the percentage? 50? What is it?
50. Rounds up 54.
About 50, roughly 54%. Much more consistent. Much closer to 50%. And in fact, if we'd have done this 3,000 times, it would have been exactly or very, very close to 50%. A great illustration of that is on page 331. Take a look at it. All right, this is showing up to 1,000 flips or more. And obviously, if you only flip a coin one time, it's either going to be 100% heads or 0% heads. But as you keep going, notice what happens. As you have many, many, many trials, the percentage of heads is getting closer to what it should be. At around 300 flips, looks like this one's off, this one's a little bit lower, ours is a little bit higher. But once you get higher than that, 600, 900, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, okay, the percentage is going to come out to be what it was supposed to be. This is this weird world of probability. Have you ever had a relative come back from Vegas or Tahoe and tell you about how much money they won?
Yeah.
You ever heard that before?
Yeah.
They're not lying. This is why Las Vegas exists. They know that there's going to be some crazy winners. There's going to be some craziness in the short run. And you could buck the trend and do better. And you go home and you tell your family about how much money you won. But here's what Las Vegas knows. Every single game that they have, blackjack, roulette, there's a little tiny advantage to the house. It might be like 52% to 48%. It's not perfectly 50-50 like flipping a coin. They give themselves a little bit of an advantage. Then they know when they deal 1,000, 10,000 spins of the roulette wheel or games of blackjack, they're going to win 52% of the money. It's called the law of large numbers. We're going to study a lot more about it later, but it's just the way it is. Probability is a weird deal that's very random in the short run, very unpredictable, but you do something enough, you're guaranteed to win. They see people winning. You go into a casino, there's blackjacks and there's people screaming and there's bells and whistles going on, and they're just smiling. Now, they tell you all about all the money they won. They probably don't tell you as much about all the times they lost, because they're going to go back, and if they do something enough, okay, the percentage are going to go to be where they should. Okay? So you can't win. And that's the things we're going to be studying now. All right, so this is what it's all about. In the short run, very unpredictable. In the long run, it's very, very predictable. So probability is the study of chance outcomes, developed by gamblers 300, 400 years ago to figure out how to take money and to learn how this works in the long run. So probability is the proportion of time something will happen if you do it many, many times. Probability of getting heads on a coin is 50%. Because in the long run, if you do it many, many, many times, okay, that's what that probability is going to come out to, guaranteed. Another word for that is long-term relative frequency. Remember, we learned relative frequency means the proportion or the percentage of time something happens. And you're going to be dealing with this word random a lot. Okay, don't think of random as, like haphazard or crazy. No, no, no. Yeah, in the short run, pretty uncertain. But a random event will get very predictable in the long run. All right, this notion of independence. It's a very, very important notion. These next 3 chapters, hardest in the book by far, I think. Okay. You're going to be asked to come up with the probability of different things happening. Now, flipping a coin, that's easy. Remember that birthday problem we did last week about chances that there'd be a shared birthday in here? We ran a simulation for it. We saw in that simulation that it was a lot more, happens a lot more. Well, in this chapter, you're going to have to figure out the mathematical ways to figure out that theoretical probability. Okay. You're going to get, 10 or 12 rules. And you've got to know backwards and forwards, and you've got to use them at different times in different orders. Sometimes you can do the same problem 2 or 3 different ways. Okay, so probability is very tricky. We're going to start with those rules tomorrow. As we learn one of them, you've got to commit it to memory. You've got to understand it backwards and forwards, or you're going to be sunk in here. One of the concepts we're going to talk a lot about is independence. My dad didn't understand independence at all. Here's how he gambled. So he goes in a casino, and he sits at a roulette wheel. Now, roulette wheel, you guys are going to learn all about different forms of gambling these next 3 chapters. A roulette wheel, for those of you who don't know, a little ball that goes around. There's 18 black numbers, 18 red numbers, and 2 green numbers. Okay? So he would sit there all night long. And then he would wait until there were 5 black numbers in a row that came up. 5 in a row. And then he would put all his money on red. Because, well, you've just had 5 blacks in a row, right? So the odds are, you can almost hear those wheels turning, right? You say, well, the odds are red's got to come up next. And when you had your 8 going, you probably had that feeling somewhere in there too, right? Wow, I've had a whole bunch of these things. The next one should come up, right? Now let's think about this logically. On that next roll, was the chances of red any different than it was before? No, you're right back to where you were before. But he was thinking in the short run. He was thinking, well, I mean, you know, it's bound to even out. It doesn't even out in the short run. Only in the long run. Many, many, many times. He didn't understand this concept of independence. Independent events are one that, with whatever happened before, does not change the probability of the next event happening. If you flip a coin and you get 4 heads in a row, and now you're flipping a coin again, is the probability any different than 50-50 on the next one? No, it doesn't change in the short run. So what happened before did not affect what happens next. We say those two events are independent of each other. Now, what's the opposite of that? Dependent events? Think about this now. So I've got a deck of cards. What are the chances that you get a red one? Well, there's 26 and 26, right? So there's about a 50-50 chance. Now, what's the chance of getting a red one again after a red one's already gone? Does it change the next time you take a card? You bet. So what happened before, getting a red card, changed the probability of the next one happening. That's dependent. Okay? We're going to learn independence, dependence 9 different ways, but I want you to understand this key concept. What happens before doesn't affect what happens next, independent. What happened before changes what happens next, the probability of what's happening next. That's dependent. Okay? And then one of the best ways, I'm sure how all these 300 years ago, how these smart math guys figured out the probability of certain events to happen, they just ran simulations. And they did them over and over. They probably played blackjack millions of times until they figured out what the probability was. Okay? Now you're going to understand all of the mathematical rules and principles that they came up with, so we don't have to do a simulation a million times to figure out what the probability is. Okay, and that's what we're going to be going on in the next couple of days. Or next month. Okay? Questions or comments on this?